The credit crunch for many people feels so long ago, and possibly for some young people, they think it's a new cereal. Well, the credit crunch has had a major impact on all of our lives, and there's so much that's happened over the last 10 years. So this week, we're going to look at what's happened over the last 10 years, what's changed for property investors, and what are the lessons you mustn't forget.
Yes, welcome. This is the Property Podcast. I am Rob D. He is Rob B. This is episode number 242, when we are looking back at 10 years since the credit crunch. So much has happened, so many lessons in there that we don't want to lose sight of because you can use them next time round. So that's our main topic. Loads of other good stuff to pack in as well. Starting, Rob, with news of a new free course. Yep,
we've been busy bees and we've created you another free course. So, for those who don't know, there's loads of free courses on thepropertyhub.net. If you go to thepropertyhub.net/courses, you can take advantage of them all. Absolutely free, no catches. And we keep updating that page, and we've produced a new course for you, which is called How to Let and Manage a Property Yourself. We teach you. So all of our experience of doing it ourselves, all of our experience of running a letting agent, basically a whole lot of experience has been poured into this course. Absolutely free, no catches, no sell up to the paid course that then you can find out more. It's all in there. So take advantage of it. We love creating these resources for you, and we get such lovely feedback, so it kind of motivates us. So go to thepropertyhub.net/courses and get stuck into this one.
Yep, you want to be doing that. You also want to be heading along to a meetup. If you're the kind of person who listens to the podcast on the day it comes out, you're probably the kind of super keen person who's also got your meetup place booked already. It's tonight. It's the first Thursday of every month, as always.
Big news. You are actually going to not keep it a surprise, but tell people where you're going tonight.
Yeah, I am. Either I've got more organised or my security team is getting a bit more lax, whichever way you want to look at it. Yeah, I'm going to be in Birmingham tonight. And Rob, you're going to be in Cheltenham, I believe.
Yeah, me and my entourage are going to be at the Cheltenham meetup. And when I say entourage, that's really just me. So make sure you get along to a meetup. Of course, if you're close to Birmingham or Cheltenham, come and see Rob or myself. We'd love to meet you in person. But if not, go to any of the meetups. Go to thepropertyhub.net/meetups and you can find your local meetups. There's loads of them, 30 plus, all around the country. And you know what? If you've listened to this one a bit late and you think, oh, I've missed that, they're on every month, the first Thursday of every month. So don't worry. Get your ticket for the next one.
Okay, let's take a look before we get into our main topic at our news story this week. And this is yet another government review. The government is on an absolute mad one at the moment. I don't know what Sajid Javid's had for breakfast. He's announcing things left, right and centre. So we had the lettings fee ban a while ago. Then there was letting agents needing to have compulsory money protection, which kind of slipped through unnoticed. Then they were looking into service charges and leasehold. And now they're reviewing the home buying process. The home buying process is going to be faster and less stressful following this review, apparently.
Wow, okay, that's a big claim. Let's not be too cynical, Rob. A review is suddenly going to transform the system, but I like it. If he can do it, and you might have been having some of that credit crunch cereal, maybe that's powered him up and he's going to deliver. I'll wait and see, though.
So they are, of course, absolutely right. The home buying process in England and Wales is awful. It's a little bit better in Scotland, but I'm sure there's room for improvement there too. But they've identified gazumping, they've talked about how long it takes, and yeah, they're absolutely right. Buying a house is really hard, it takes ages, it costs a lot of money. Any improvements would be very welcome. But it seems like identifying the problem is all well and good, but they've got quite a backlog of things to work through. Once they've done all these reviews, they actually need to then implement something.
They do. What's amazing is they've only just noticed that it's difficult to buy a property. But well done, at least they've now finally noticed.
So you'll find a link to that story and all the other links from today at the show notes for this episode, which are at thepropertyhub.net/crunch lessons. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. So it is just over 10 years since the credit crunch. Not that there's an official start to the crunch, but the first sign that things were not as good as everyone thought they were was on the 9th of August 2007, and that's when the French bank BNP Paribas announced that it wouldn't be able to pay anyone back. They didn't have any money, and that turned out just to be the first of many. So a lot has happened in the decade since then. That's the topic of an article in the latest issue of the Property Hub magazine. So if you're a subscriber to that, you should have that already, or if not, you'll have it through your letterbox any day now. But what we wanted to do in this episode was pull out the lessons. Because as we know, property is cyclical. Things that have happened before will happen again. And we don't want to lose any of those lessons. There's a lot of pain in the last 10 years for a lot of people, but there are some really valuable lessons in there as well that we want to make sure to absorb and make use of positively next time around.
Before we do, let's have a quick review of what's actually happened over the last 10 years. A lot has happened. It may not seem it now, but let's just do a quick recap to refresh everyone's memories. So, of course, Rob, we started with the market crash. The property market crashed, the stock markets crashed, the pound collapsed. Generally, everything crashed. After that crash, or multiple crashes, we had a plateau where not a lot moved. It was difficult for things to move, but London was the first to pick up. And that pretty much, Rob, was obviously confidence was down, but also lending was near on impossible to get hold of.
Yeah, those are the two big factors, really. Confidence, which is a huge one, but lending as well. Before the crunch, you could comfortably, for buy-to-let mortgages, get 85% loan to value. That was kind of normal. That wasn't seen as excessive in any way. Once that crunch had hit, it was very hard to get mortgages at all. Lending just got completely pulled. And those mortgages that were around were more at the 65 to 70% rate. Now, of course, it's come back to around about 75 as your norm, but from 85 down to about 65 was a big drop to happen all of a sudden.
It was huge. Like, the deposits you were working at suddenly looked a lot bigger, a lot scarier, and it took a while for it to recover to what we know is the standard today, which is about 75% loan to value. You could do better than that, and of course you could choose to do less, but the average down to 75%, so it's still not quite where it was. And that's because credit's eased up, confidence has gradually returned to the market. And then, Rob, just as confidence was creeping back in, that pesky government got involved.
Yeah, this is what I find so interesting because it's happened in a relatively short space of time. So we've been podcasting for about four and a half years. Crikey, that's actually longer than I thought. But when we started the podcast, we were a good few years on from the actual crash. So all the action had already happened, but we were still largely in this sort of plateau phase. Lending had eased up quite a bit, but confidence was still low. We were having to talk property up. And far fewer average people were really interested in it. It was just the people who had been in property before or were particularly interested in it. That confidence over the last 4 years has returned rapidly, too rapidly for the government. Prices picked up too much for their liking. Too much lending was going into the housing market, in their opinion. So the government got involved and put a dampener on things. There were the tax changes. There were the mortgage restrictions that we've seen more recently. Lots of measures in place to try to damp the market down. And I just find that so interesting because 10 years is not a long period of time. In that time, you had a pretty serious crash. You had a whole lot of not much happening while people figured out what was going on afterwards. And you've had things picking up again afterwards to such an extent that the government's had to try and get involved and calm everyone down. So, busy 10 years or so.
Yeah, it feels it, especially the last 4 we've been podcasting. So, that's what's happened. But let's take some things away from this. Let's get into the lessons. So, the first lesson is when the market turns, and we believe we're a good few years away from that yet, but when it eventually turns, it turns very quickly. Like now, like a bit of a minor wobble, people are like, oh, is it turning? No, you know when it's turning. It's very obvious. So obvious that interest rates will disappear. So they went from 5% to 1% in under a year. That's so rapid. Now, interest rates are very low right now, and over the coming years, they will slowly edge up. But wherever they get to, they'll disappear again next time. It will be very quick. It'll be very obvious. So you don't have to ask, oh, is it happening? It'll be very clear that it's happening.
Yeah, and a large part of that is because of the sentiment and the confidence that we talked about earlier. Confidence can just evaporate almost overnight. So when it turns quickly. That means you can't watch it happen and then think, oh, what should I do about this? You need to be prepared for that first. Another reason why you need to be prepared is related to that other big factor that we talked about. So we said there was confidence and there's also credit. So the market will turn because of confidence, but then credit is going to amplify that in a big way. So to start with, before we get to the next crash, credit is going to be easier to get. Is it going to be as easy as last time? Possibly not for buy-to-let investors because some lessons have been learned. However, in the residential market, you're already seeing longer mortgage terms. You're already seeing much higher loan to values. So lending in some markets will definitely be a lot easier. For buy-to-let, who knows? Maybe that will ease up further as well. Memories are very short. So many investments now are in limited companies. We know that mortgages for limited companies are becoming a lot easier to get and fees and rates are becoming more competitive. So that's going to happen. We know it is. After that, when things turn, credit is going to be very hard to get, almost impossible. We saw this happen last time. It's not just loan to values falling, although as Rob said earlier, that makes a huge difference to the amount of deposits that you were looking at last time, but also the sheer number of products available. The contraction was huge, and also who they're going to be lending to. If anyone is going to be lending at all, they're going to be very, very selective about it. So this is something that we know is going to happen. Credit is going to become a lot easier to get, and then it's going to become a lot harder to get. Again, something to be prepared for. We know it's going to happen.
Something else we know that will happen is when it eventually comes, and do bear in mind we're 6 to 8 years away from this, is that the majority of the falls, when they do happen, take about 18 months. And after that, pretty much the majority of the drops, if not all, have taken place. Now, the falls might take 18 months, but confidence will take a long time to recover. So after about 18 months in, it's actually an absolutely fabulous time to get stuck in because nobody will have the confidence to. Credit will be difficult, but if you work through the obstacles, the opportunities there are huge. But next one, Rob, this is the one that really terrifies me.
Yeah, this is the serious one. Make sure you're planning for this now, because all your favourite TV property shows will disappear. Well, first, the good news is for the next 6 to 8 years, there's going to be a lot more of them, but enjoy, because they will disappear. Again, we saw this last time. Property Ladder was on pretty much every day. It was great. Then the market turned, and it was replaced with shows about how to fix things and be frugal and all that sort of thing. Not so much fun. There is a serious point in there, which is tied into sentiment. Again, you could almost use it as a barometer for how people are feeling. And when you're seeing lots of property shows, you're seeing lots of good news stories, you're hearing lots of your friends who've not really showed any interest before talking about property suddenly, then that tells you which phase you're in. It tells you that we're on that major upswing. And it also tells you what's coming after that upswing. But the point is, Rob, you can take advantage of both phases.
That's key here. Do take advantage of both. There'll be some people listening going, right, the next 6 to 8 years, I'm going to go crazy, make all my money, and then sit out of it once it goes down. There'll be some, because people's mindsets are different, they'll be listening to this going, well, I'll let all the good side go up, and then I'll wait till it crashes, and then I'll get stuck in. Really? You want to do both. There are opportunities, huge opportunities in both. We're going to see rapid growth now over the next 6 to 8 years, the most aggressive growth of the cycle. That's about to play out. Clearly, in a fast-growing market, and do bear in mind that we haven't started it yet, plenty of opportunities. Note the word opportunities in the up and the down. It's just a phase. It's just different market conditions. But in those market conditions, if you plan for both, you can take advantage. And that's the biggest point here, Rob. That's really the conclusion of all of this, is a plan.
Yeah, exactly right. Have a plan for the next 6 to 8 years, then have another plan for the phase after that. Now, it might be that your plan for one of those will be do nothing. Maybe you don't want to get involved in the boom, or maybe you don't have the appetite for picking up opportunities when confidence is low. But even if your plan is to do nothing, there is at least a plan. But the important thing is to be aware that there are opportunities coming up in both of these phases. They're just two different markets, and you can operate successfully in each market. But remember, things happen quickly. When you look at the graph of the 18-year cycle, the last couple of years ramps up extremely steeply, and then as we've already talked about, when things turn, it happens in a matter of months. And that means that by the time you look at some of these trailing indicators, like the number of property programs and how your friends are feeling and things like that, it's going to be too late for you to make a plan. You need to be prepared in advance for what's going to happen. You need to know what your game plan is. You need to make sure that your portfolio is in the position you want it to be in. And because you know what's going to happen with mortgages, you need to make sure that you're in the sort of the cash or credit position that you want to be in as well. The cycle makes it so much easier. The last 10 years could have seemed really baffling if you didn't realise that there was a cycle going on. It could all seem pretty random. But what we now know is that's not the case. Things have happened for a reason. They're going to happen again in a very similar way for the same reasons. Therefore, you can have a plan and you can take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Some people will listen to this and be excited. Some people will listen to this and be scared. Really, you should just listen to this and think it's the market. The market is the market. It's just going to do these things whether you like it or not, however you emotionally respond to it. So just do something with it. Get that plan. Work on your plan of what you're going to do in both phases. And to put it simply, you will prosper. You will also prosper or feel better when you get our resource of the week. But also, I think, Rob, it's been scientifically proven that you feel better once you've left us a 5-star review.
Yep, that's one thing we know. Whatever happens in the economy, you can be sure of. You can always just leave us an iTunes review and instantly get relief from whatever is troubling you. So, Rob, who's taken advantage of that this week?
It's Addo. Thank you, Addo. Addo says, I've recently decided to release some equity from my flat to start investing in property. As I love podcasts, I search for any related podcasts and luckily stumbled across the Property Podcast. In a month since finding the podcast, I've listened to over 150 episodes, read Rob Dix's book, The Complete Guide to Property Investment, listened to Rich Dad Poor Dad, attended 2 networking events, watched most of the tutorials on the Property Hub website. I could never have imagined of being such well informed in such a short period of time. The latest magazine and another book from Rob, Beyond the Bricks, has been delivered today, and I look forward to reading them now. I feel confident enough to start investing in property and know how to do it by setting goals and creating a strategy. The podcast has set me up so well for what I hope is a long and fruitful future in property. Thank you, Rob and Rob. Thank you, Addo. Great review, and I'm glad that you got stuck into what we put out there, which for the vast majority is free or very, very low cost, the price of a book. So well done, and well done for taking action.
Yeah, we love that. That's what we do it for. So you can go out and do things like that. That is awesome. Okay, so in a minute, we will wrap this up by telling you what's coming up next week. But before we do that, we've just got time to sneak in a resource of the week. And Rob, I will leave you to pronounce this one, but I just went onto the website and the headline is Sleep at the Push of a Button. That sounds good.
Oh, sorry. Hello. Yeah. What year is it? Who's the president? No, I've not been listening to this app during the podcast recording, but I might do at some point this week. And it's called Fizz. I'm going to say that's how you pronounce it, Rob. But it's basically spelled PZIZZ.com. You can decide how it sounds, but that's where you've got to go to get the app. This app is on iTunes and Android. What is it? Well, it's an app that apparently helps you sleep, which is great for those who struggle to sleep. And it's great for power naps as well, if you want to have a power nap. Now, I've used this in the past for power naps, and I don't fall asleep. I go into like a meditative state because it's like a guided meditation. So it feels like I'm meditating, but I do feel a bit more refreshed than when I went in. But most of all, I just feel like my mind's a bit clearer. I think it's just a great guided meditation. Now, it's absolutely free. So get it on your iPhone or whatever smartphone you have and take advantage of it. It's quite clever. And Rob, there seems to be a bit of science behind it.
Yep, apparently it's all to do with binaural beats, which I've heard of before. Apparently it's a particular type of sound that trains your brain into a certain wave pattern. I don't know how true any of that is. I'm not a scientist, but I do know that I love a power nap. I'm pretty sure when I do it, I'm not just in a meditative state, I'm snoring like crazy. But that's why I work from home, so no one else has to put up with that. So if you work from home, or you don't mind looking silly in front of everyone you work with, then you might want to give this a go. I think napping is brilliant. I think all offices should have napping rooms in them.
Nice one, Rob. There's a request from all our team. Right, before we get ourselves into any more expensive trouble, let's tell you what comes up next week. And next week, we are looking at the due diligence we do on developments. So when we assess any investment for ourselves, the amount of due diligence or research we do is vast, absolutely huge. And that list has changed and updated over the years as we've learnt more and more lessons. So this comprehensive list of what you should be researching and checking out and looking into before you invest, is one that you must have. So you must join us next Thursday for that podcast.
Yes, you must. And if you can't wait that long, there's Ask Rob and Rob on Tuesday. There's meetups tonight, thepropertyhub.net/meetups. And there is a course to watch on how to let and manage a property yourself at thepropertyhub.net/courses. So loads of property goodness to keep you busy. And unless we see you in Birmingham or Cheltenham tonight, we'll catch you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to The Property Podcast. For show notes, all our past episodes, and to leave a review, go to thepropertyhub.net/podcast.